So like many of you, I'm extremely optimistic about AGI. And if AGI goes well, we'll probably have built a technology of, humanity, and it could solve all of our challenging problems. But within this optimism lies some real concern, and that is to say, what if this technology is in the hands of the wrong people, and what if they're optimized for the wrong things? So with that, I will start going through this. Is there a clicker?
Yes, there is a clicker, but oh yeah.
Is it this one?
Yeah, green button.
Okay, great. So, and the context here is that we see a very concerning trend in democratic backsliding. For example, according to VDEM Institute, autocracies now actively outnumber democracies. And this is for the first time in over 20 years. And over 72% of the global population, this is approximately 5.8 billion people, now live in autocracies. And compared to this to about 6.6% of the world's population that currently lives in quote-unquote full democracies. Furthermore, Freedom House reports that global freedom has declined for the 19th consecutive year. And in 2024 alone, 60 countries suffered declines in rights and liberties, as compared to 34 countries which improved. The 2024 is also known as the year of elections, as there were a lot of elections all over the world, and 40% of nationals' votes were marred by violence or intimidation. So given this context, one of the work streams I lead at the AI Governance Initiative studies the question of how do we ensure that AI is not used for political control and it enhances democratic norms and values. So what is AI-enabled authoritarianism? This picture really nicely captures what we are trying to study. As you can see, individuals are flagged, classified, and humans are converted into data points that could be studied. And different regimes, despite whether they're classified as democracies or autocracies, essentially uses censorship, surveillance, and other forms of technology to manipulate populations. However, this was done before AI, so the question is, what's new about AI? So to study this, we define the term AI-enabled authoritarianism, which essentially uses machine learning systems to augment or automate the process of surveillance and control. And the really important terms here are augment and automate. So what are some of the properties of political control? First of all, the first property is economies of scale. As Anton was talking about earlier, humans are expensive, often wrong, not great at doing things. Compared to AIs, they're much faster, cheaper, and they can do things at scale. But the second property is systems opacity. These systems are incredibly difficult to verify, to validate, and provide external scrutiny. And the final but most, I guess, worrisome property is the autonomy. These systems can now do all of these things without humans in the loop. So one such example is Where is Daddy's algorithm used by the IDF in Gaza. So what are some of the issues that existing AI algorithms reinforces when it comes to AI-enabled authoritarianism? The first of this opacity is the black box nature of machine learning systems. As most of you would be aware in this room, these systems are pretty much a black box. We don't necessarily know what's going on, and they're very hard to interpret. The second issue is that these are reinforced by issues such as national security, where you can essentially classify different analyses where the role of whistleblowing becomes extremely difficult. So what are some of the existing ML systems that are used for such political control? The first one is algorithmic surveillance. Of course, as you have seen and you're probably aware, the most common form of this algorithmic surveillance is cameras that are installed everywhere, but these go beyond cameras. There are other forms of surveillances that I'll be talking about. The third one is predictive control. So as opposed to you committing an act and then people investigating you, these are algorithms that essentially reads the data and prior to you actually committing anything, predicts what's going to happen. So people will be knocking on your door. And the third one is information control and censorship. So now if you've been reading the news about when it comes to elections and stuff, people are essentially scraping the web to determine how to manipulate information in order to control population's opinion. And the final one is behavior manipulation, which in my view is probably the most dangerous one. As a result of the existing control system, humans are now changing their behavior when they know that they're going to be encountering this sort of measures. For example, people will no longer go to rallies or protests because they know that they'll be flagged for a specific crime. Okay, so I'm running out of time, but the good news is the organizers kindly allowed me to run a breakout session for an hour later on. In this breakout session, we'll get in small groups, and we'll talk about all of these questions and potential ways and responsibilities that we bear as scientists, engineers, policy makers, in order to resist AI-enabled authoritarianism. If these questions are interesting for you, we're also hiring for several roles in this capacity at Oxford. Feel free to get in touch. Thank you.